I'm live. Okay, good. Thank you. Well, I'm very proud of my husband. He had a timer on his computer to put it to sleep. Good for him. So I couldn't read it. So I don't know. I have my glasses. I mean, I have my contacts on, but I guess I couldn't read it that close. So anyway, that's what happened. But now we're back. Anyway, so I guess I'm saying global heating is real and it's happening now, something like that. And so I was saying that global heating, if we get back to what we're all supposed to talk about, because when you're in an emergency, that's all you talk about. And here, I'm going to do this. So I'm just going to do this. Take this. Oh, there. Okay, good. Something like that. Okay, good. So anyway, global heating. Oh, I guess we were starting to talk about it. Is that okay? Hold on. This is my itchy ear, which is most probably itchy because of wearing headsets, but I have to stop wearing headsets in the ear. So anyway, so basically, what is it that global heating is real? Okay, good, right? And so he got a lot of views, Cougar, from, and I'm Cougar's wife, just to reintroduce myself as we started over. And what it was saying is that let's see how many minutes I put on this. Let's see. Um, okay, I guess it's showing. Let's see what it's doing. Let's see. Anyway, 10 calories. All right. Okay, 20 minutes. All right, good. So anyway, so what it was saying is that his video that went viral, he got the most views, was on um the thank you, the El Nino. And the El Nino. And so, but what's happening is that so many of the news channels are really covering the El Nino. They really are covering it. It makes a real difference. So you get a concurrency of voices because you're hearing it over and over with the newscasters. So people are hearing it, and then Cougar W talks about it. In terms of our climate crisis, which the news isn't doing, but they are saying, and what did they say? So they've been saying with the El Nino is that it will add heat, and we will get a lot of heat and a lot of more precipitation, and it's just going to and on top of our global heating, which is already at 1.5, and so they're saying this could add two degree. It's going to add. It can add 2 degrees C. I don't know. We could hit 2 degrees C. And so, that's supposed to be the drop dead zone that's going to really be bad. It's all bad. Right now, I mean, all these storms that we've been watching, Cougar W and I, we've been watching the storms that are hitting the Midwest and Texas. I guess they call it what do they call that? The lower, I don't know, some name, the lower plains, or the lower plains, the plain states, but they're the lower plains, which is like Texas, Kentucky, Oklahoma, something like that. And so those are the states that have been really, and Missouri, and really been hit hard with all these tornadoes and lightning, lots of lightning and hail, and they've been having a really bad time. So, and we've been watching Max Velocity, and also, what's the other guy's name? But anyway, the two YouTubers that are talking on the weather, and they're doing very well. They're his views. Max Velocity is at 11 million or whatever, and people watch him for hours. And he even has a thing now where you can have him call you, and tell you if it's going to hit your location. So that was really cool. And so, but they're having a lot of, so that his channel doing so well is sign of our global heating, causing so much precipitation and heat from the Gulf of Mexico hitting the jet stream and causing turbulence and all the things. So all that people are dying, and property and lives are being destroyed from these tornadoes. And so they're having a lot of that. And global heating is, even today it was hot. I wasn't out much, but it was hot, and now it's going to get hot. They said it's going to be San Jose is going to be getting hot. So, yeah, so everyone's getting hot and dry, and that's what I was talking about before. Was just the dryness across the whole country, and that's global heating causing so much of that dryness and heat. Oh, and we were hearing about the states that are, been experiencing so much heat. Arizona, Phoenix is the worst. So that was it. Phoenix was the worst, the hottest, and people dying. Where if you fall down, you get third-degree burns, and then there was Las Vegas was the third hottest, and I forgot what the second one was. I think it's somewhere maybe in Arizona. Anyway, and so just very hot places that are becoming uninhabitable. So that was that. And what else? So, yeah, global heating is for real, and getting ready for that. And so, that was one of these other books or YouTubes I was listening to last night. Was about this liminal space. She was a sociologist, and she was talking to this guy. I forget his name, with an S, Schumacher or something. He's a broadcaster, and I forget his name, but anyway, and she was a sociologist, or what she calls herself is a corporate sociologist or something. But anyway, she talked about what she referred to as a liminal spaces, and liminal spaces are spaces. She was, one way to explain liminality is to say that it's between the old and the new. It's the unknown in that space. Between the old world, the old ways, and the new ways. And when you're in between, which we're in an in between liminal state of needing to go to another state and another way of being. And so, and what she said is important when you're in a liminal state is communication and talking to each other. So that's what we have to do. We have to talk to each other. And yeah, so let's see. I do talk to my son every night and his girlfriend, so that feels good. Did we talk about climate crisis? I don't know. Let me see. We were talking about his job and her job, and I do send him. He works with an ambulance association, so an ambulance company, and so they're dealing with emergencies, and so. And then, I guess one thing I was saying about, well, he also deals with government relations. And I was suggesting that he talk to all the representatives and that was part of his job. So, because you don't know who's going to win. And he wants to talk about, having the EMS world be more well supported. Okay, good. So then, I guess Tom Steyer is talking about single payer. So, and my son was saying, well, the single payer might not be good for private business because you just have one payment from the government, and it might not be that great. And so that was that. But I was, when I was talking to Gemini about it, one thing that was good with the single payer is, as I guess the government gets a lot of money and is creating the whole healthcare system. They were, I don't know what I had asked, but one thing that she brought up was that we could electrify all of our fleet, and they could mandate the electrification of all the fleet, and then the government could support the infrastructure at all the hospitals and things like that, and putting in the electric. And that's what Cougar says. If you need a vehicle, then it's got to be electric, because as we can see what's happening with the Iran war. And that was one thing Cougar said today was really important, was like our supply chain needs to go that's really large and get very, very small and very hyper local. And so we've been talking about that for a long time. And that's where electricity is much more hyper local. We could create our own electricity than getting the oil. And that's what we're seeing with the Iran. The curtain is being lifted on the whole oil industry and everything that is part of that. And it was just like with the war with Ukraine, we saw the problems of what's really happening in Europe and the gas lines that they were getting from Russia. And, I always said it was like the curtain was being lifted up there as well. And that's what we're seeing with the whole oil industry and how long it takes for these boats that go at the speed of a bicycle. And then it takes months to get to the location and supply chain. Anyway, and then other things we were talking about today was the whole thing with food insecurity is that we, don't have the whole thing with the fertilizers. And like Cougar W was talking about today, I don't know if it was on his, yeah, I think it was on his video. He was talking about the one he was talking about with food is, how explosive these fertilizers are. And, to keep them, we can't keep them, because they're so explosive. It comes from natural gas. And, it's like, I don't have that problem with my compost, and my worm compost. There's nothing explosive about it. And we all need to be doing that. And so we have to get onto where we're all doing that. And in, what was it, in growing our food locally. And yeah, I've been listening to this other woman who is doing research about victory gardens. And that's what we need to start. And that was Radio EcoShock. He was, what's his name? Smith. I forget his first name. Anyway, he had this woman who was talking about on his show this week. It's every Wednesday. Radio EcoShock puts out a great video about our climate crisis, and he was having this woman's talk about her research on and her promotion of the victory gardens, local, growing food locally. She thinks everybody needs to grow food locally, and she's right. And so, and even the whole thing with composting, and we need to do that so we don't have to have a diesel truck come and pick up our yard waste, which is what is happening in San Jose. So we don't need that, and we need to compost. Yeah, I tried. It was like my friend Allery says, we need to live like plants, where all our needs are met in one place, and that's how we need to live. So that's that was what one thing somebody was saying. Some other person was saying that we need to imagine another future. Its imagination is going to be very important for our future, and in that liminal space between the old and the new, we need a lot of imagination, not engineering. That's what was a turnoff with um, Tom Steyer. Talking about putting the fossil fuel, the CO2 back in the ground, and we're gonna do controlled burns. Anyway, that's just appealing to I guess to get elected. And then I guess he needs. That's what Cougar says, is that the his staff won't allow him to do controlled burns. So good. Anyway, and that's the another issue is getting elected. So I hope he gets elected. I still think he's the best candidate. So that's one thing. We're lucky to have him, that he's running for governor. And one of the other good things, like my son said, because I said that the ambulance company gave a lot of money to one candidate, but it turns out then he had trouble. And so one of the things is to give the money to all give some money to all candidates. And, so you can talk about the needs of his corporation and the EMS, the whole EMS industry. But the thing is that Marshall said, my son said that, Tom Steyer doesn't take any donations, and that's good. That means he's not, and that's what he says. He's going after the big guys. That he didn't need, he doesn't owe anybody any money. So that's really important. So that was that. Anything else? So anyway, the liminal space. and that we need to imagine another way. So I guess that's what I'm needing to do. And I'm being very bad about walking in my neighborhood and talking to my neighbors. So I really have to do that. So hopefully I'll do that tomorrow. Well, tomorrow I'm going to be working with my helper from 11 to like 4 or something. She's going to come help me, and we're going to work on finally getting my plants. What I want to do is I ordered these things from Michael's, um, to label all of my seeds, and getting all my seeds in little boxes with labels on it. And I think I want to use my labeler that's really nice, so that because when I wrote on this little white tape, it just sort of went away. So I think I need to use my labeler. So I will. I'm going to do that. And I got now 32 boxes that I'm going to label with more seeds. And I have a lot of old seeds too, and old boxes. So just getting my seeds, and then getting getting my seeds in the ground somewhere. They're saying that there's a lot of seeds I can put in the ground right now. So I have to clear out my beds. And right now a lot of what's growing is fava beans. And so I need to what they say with the fava is I just need to cut it versus pulling it out, because those roots, which are legumes, have what they call bacteria on the roots that actually are able to take nitrogen fixing. I was going to get it, but thank you, sweetheart. Nitrogen fixing. Yeah, my biologist husband. Yeah, nitrogen fixing. At least he's listening. That's nice. And my audience. Thank you, honey. And so, yeah, nitrogen fixing. So I'm not going to pull it out of the ground. I'm just going to cut it. And, I think it's already. And then the only thing was, and I have to ask Google this, is that if I cut the plants, will the see, normally I just leave them in for a really long time so that they dry and I can collect seeds, because that's something that Cougar's told me. Is like, you have, as a gardener, you have to save some seeds, not eat it all, because if you eat everything, then you won't have a crop for next year. Now, of course, I could buy more, but you never know. You might not be able to buy more. The whole system could break down. So you want to save, as much as hyper local as you can get. So I save seeds. So you save seeds. Now, I think you have to. Oh, I guess I'm very blurry. Hold on. Okay, seems like it's blurry. Anyway, I guess it is a little bit for some reason. Let me see. Anyway, so basically, you have to save some seeds. So does it have to stay in the ground to get dry and brown, and I have to wait another month before I can cut it back? Or can I cut off those plants and just put those pods, like my fava bean pods, which are large with fava beans in it, just have them dry off of the, I don't know. I have to figure that out. So, or maybe I can leave some. And there's a lot of weeding still to do. Anyway, and some of the plants don't have any plants on it. I've already harvested, so I can cut those. Anyway, so that was that. And so, what was I saying? Oh, tomorrow, yeah, working on that. But I'll have to get up early and get my exercise before I start working, and things like that. And then, clearing out my beds and putting my compost in the beds. And there's a lot of plants that you can start right now that I can just put the seeds in the ground, like cucumbers. But I find that it's better to start them in the greenhouse, because you take better care of them and make sure they're watered and things like that. I guess I could do it in both places. So I'll start some seedlings, transplants, and start some in the beds. And so I want to start a lot of seed starting. Anyway, that's tomorrow and Wednesday. And let's see what else. Well, so yeah, when I was watering my garden this evening, and I was listening to to the debate. I didn't hear the one thing. I think they started talking about climate change, so I have to listen to it again. But one of my neighbors stopped by and he said, "Oh, I love your garden. Your garden is the most wonderful place. And every time I walk by, I just love." And he was a Chinese guy from China, and he was an engineer, and he worked for what's that company? TikTok. He worked for TikTok, and he just loved my garden, and he wants a garden like ours. He loves how wild it is, and that made me really happy because it's kind of wild. And I was like thinking maybe, but I kind of like it because like there's this one plant that it's kind of wild and growing out into this more towards the sidewalk, but it's got this pretty blue flower, and it's my escarole. All right, let's see. I don't know why it looks like the camera is not focusing, or maybe it's me not focusing. Oh well, whatever. So it doesn't matter. Um, anyway, hopefully you're just listening to me. But anyway, this is this escarole, and it's going to seed, and that's been my favorite plant because it reseeds itself over my whole garden. And I got it from my friend, an Italian friend, a long time ago. I don't know, almost like 15 years ago or so. I went to her house and she gave me the escarole plants that were growing wild in her garden. Anyway, so he was nice and he was loving my garden and was hoping to get a home that he would grow his garden like ours. So that was good. And that's what Cougar says. Those that have land are fortunate to be able to grow. But even still, can I survive on my garden? No, it's going to take a village. And that's what's really important. So it's like talking to my neighbors in this liminal space where that's what the sociologist says. We figure out where we are from talking to each other. There's one other thing she said. There was two things that she said about helping us navigate this liminal split space between two realities. And I forgot what the first one she said was, talking to each other. And then there was another thing she said. I'll have to listen to it again as the second thing. Anyway, so that was that. And so talking to my neighbors, because it's going to take a village. And what does Cougar say? He says, a lot of people won't listen and they won't want to hear it, and they'll want to keep their job. And, of course, we're not going to give up our jobs yet, but our jobs are going away. So, how are we going to survive without our jobs? And so we have to figure that out. And we can do it. We've done it before, It's growing our food and having all of our needs met by ourselves and our neighbors. So that's the liminal space that we need to navigate ourselves into that space. And like Cougar says, it's like, well, those that don't do that, well, then they'll die, And so we can't convince everybody to do that. But as many as my neighbors, I convince to grow food. And one of my neighbors, they're Indian, and she says, "Oh, I'm growing basil," and she's growing some tomatoes. I said, "Oh, I'm so proud of you," because we talked before. So she said she's doing it good, and they're very nice. And I just need to. Oh, that was what I was going to do. And once I start walking again around my block, I will go and bring Cougar's book of It Was 100 Days, an End of Civilization novel that talks about it. And even in his second book, he talks about it, which is called Ariadne, The Rise of AI and the Fall of Mankind, or Fall of Man. So, yeah, and right. So that that's a concurrency of problems, a polycrisis we're having that brings us to the same solution. Just like with COVID, the solution was the same as with climate change, and now AI, is that we have to learn to live, a great simplification and live without jobs. And what is, like if you look at what does it mean when the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, said in 2018 that we had to reduce our fossil fuels by 50% to stay under 1.5. Well, we didn't do that. So, and what that meant was, and Cougar said, is no driving, no flying, no movement of goods, no jobs, no money. So that's the reality that we have to and then AI is bringing us that too, and climate change and COVID pandemics bring us that. So all right. So anyway, that's what we have to figure out how to live without jobs. And if you can't figure that out, well, then you could die. And so that's the same thing. People would say that during COVID, if I don't have a job, I'm going to die. It's like, okay, well, we didn't used to have to do that. We didn't have jobs. We had work, or Cougar calls it labor. We laboring. We have to start laboring. Right. And that's what we have to start doing, is laboring. All right, good. So start laboring, growing food. All right. All right. I guess I'm going to go ahead and then I'm going to stand here. I'm almost done. All right, good. All right. I did my 40 minutes. All right. Thank you for your company. We love you. And saying hi to DNW if he sees this. He's so supportive. Cougar has been um, participating and watching the YouTube channel. That's really neat. Where people talk together. That's really great. And it's called. He'll tell me. It's called the YouTube channel DNW. It's Gnosis, Finding Gnosis. And so he's been very supportive. He says he likes listening to me. Okay, fine. And I have an audience somewhere. All right. Well, anyways, thanks for being there. And thanks for listening. We love you. All right. You take care. Bye. Okay. Yeah. End stream. I think it was not that